Well, hello, hello. How's it going, everybody? Really exciting to be back live. This is actually not my first live. I've done a couple others back in the day, last year. Um, it's been a little while since I've done one, and I thought I would just hop on because I've gotten a lot of comments recently, and I'm asking specifically for people to send in tunes that they want emphasis or ornamentation suggestions for. So I thought that I would just go through on a live video and answer these questions. I have 4 tunes, so I've got 2 for emphasis and 2 for ornamentation. The first 2 are the Green Mountain and Devney's Goat for the emphasis portion, and then for the ornamentation portion, I'm going to focus on Julia Delaney and Lark in the Morning. Of course, if you're watching live and you have a tune that I know and you want to suggest it, then I am happy to go over it really quick. I don't want to make this too long of a video just for people watching the replay, just so you can kind of come back to this and use it as a resource for you in your study. So let's get right to it. I'm going to start with the Green Mountain. And so we've got a lot of reels in D today. So maybe a lot of this will be cross applicable. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to play through the tune and then I'll kind of walk you through. This is sort of what I did in my video, The High Road to Linton. So you can let me know if you prefer me to pre-record something where I'm just like really meticulously going into the tune, or if you like this kind of off the cuff live stream where I'm just kind of giving you my emphasis suggestions in the moment. So this is all very dependent on how I feel like playing this tune at 1:16 p.m. on February the 10th, 2022. So just know that I might play it totally differently another time, but this is just kind of how I'm feeling the tune today. So we'll start off with the Green Mountain. Got Michigan weather here, so we might be a little flat. Welcome to everybody tuning in. That was the Green Mountain there. So what I did is just play through the tune once, and I'm going to walk you through each of the parts and kind of walk you through what it is I'm doing to give a little bit of emphasis. Now, when I say emphasis, I'm just going to go ahead and preface this by saying it's not always accenting the bow. So I'm not always like doing a very sharp pull, which might sound a little sharp in the camera, so I apologize if that's the case. But I'm not always doing that little sharp pull. I'm maybe just drawing more attention to different parts of the tune in different ways. That could be me slowing down the bow a little bit. That could be playing maybe a tiny bit louder in some places. Maybe I'm giving a bit of space around a note. And I think I'm doing that in one part of this tune, so I will walk you through that. And let you know when that happens. So just keep in mind there are lots of different ways to produce emphasis in your fiddle tunes. So we'll start back at the A part. And right away, I kind of want to draw some more attention to, because we're kind of hanging out on the A and the D string. So, and suddenly we're like, oh, we're going to just, go back up to the E here and throw in this extra note. So what I like to do to emphasize that is I actually slide up to that a little bit. I'm not even putting much pressure difference in my bow. It's more in my finger. I think I'll pretty consistently do a little slide up to that F sharp. So this is almost, we're definitely going to be combining some ornamentation and emphasis in all of these tunes. So just keep that in mind. What is ornamentation could also be an emphasis tactic. And you could also argue that the fact that I'm doing all these rolls down here is kind of emphasizing that particular note. Because I could always do, maybe not quite as Irish sounding, but there's a lot of different ornaments that you can throw in there because you've got all this space to work with. So for the A part there, Maybe when I'm starting, I'll kind of sink into that open A a little bit. So that's another thing you can do. You notice I kind of stopped the bow. And it was a very quick stop. Like I'm almost still moving the bow back and forth just without any pause, but it was just like this tiny little breath, like almost a hiccup. And I did lift my bow a little bit higher off the string there, but you don't even have to lift your bow. You can just kind of stop the bow and then go right back into it. I'll move this way so you can kind of see. Or you could lift the bow off the string. I guess it depends on how exuberant you're feeling that day. So just keep that in mind as an option that you can do for the A part. So going into the B, because we've got 3 other tunes to cover, I don't want to take up too much of your time. But going into the B part here. So another thing that you can do, and again, this is kind of an ornamentation versus and also an emphasis tactic, is you can add in drones or double stops. So you'll notice that I'm doing a lot of open A and D whenever I can. We're in the key of D, so it makes more sense to use these 2 open strings. G might work for a chord here and there, and same with E, but it doesn't come about as much in tunes in D. So if you're working with D major, just know that adding in an open string A or an open string D to a line can add a really nice, like, colorful effect and also help give it more of a fiddly emphasis because you've got that underlying drone there. So that's kind of at the end. But to start with, we're going up to this high B. And you can do that in several ways. You could do a roll and then kind of slide up to that. 4th finger is really hard to play in tune, so it's actually kind of a nice cheat to just, slide the finger around until you get to the right place, and you just say, oh, that's just, stylistic effect here, not that I can't play in tune. So that's always fun to do. So we come to these longer notes, and you don't always have to draw a lot of attention to them because they're just longer naturally and you're going to hear them ring out a bit more. But sometimes it's nice to just be moving in that direction so that when you hit that quarter note, it's kind of bringing a bit more attention to that. Again, you can use that stop motion technique. I wouldn't use it after every single quarter note, but you can kind of mix and match and play around with it a bit. So those are some ideas for the Green Mountain. Again, I'll play it one more time just so you can hear and maybe apply the stop motion. And if you have your fiddle and you know the tune and want to play it up to speed with me, then go for it. If you don't know it, you can watch this video back at slower speed. It might sound a little weird, or find another recording to learn the tune by and follow along. So there you go. There's a couple of ideas. You might be picking out some other ideas from what I'm playing that I didn't necessarily cover, so that's also totally fine. We're going to move on to Devney's Goat, which is another great D major tune. So let's see. It's so funny about the 4th finger, just when I was marveling at your pitch precision. Yeah, I've been playing for 22 years about, and I still have difficulty hitting that 4th finger sometimes. I have this finger strengthening tool that I use, and it's always something that you have to go back to. I'm getting into this idea that learning Irish trad is very cyclical. So you have to go back and revisit concepts. So finger strengthening, making sure that pinky is like really in tune and whatnot. So that's just, it's the more that you get comfortable with the instrument, the more micro adjustments you can make with your fingers. So you can hear before your audience hears that it's out of tune and make that shift even more quickly. So that's just kind of a fun thing to pick up there. All right, so Devaney's goat. So that's Devny's goat. And I'm going to go ahead and start off by showing you the bowing pattern that I use in the first measure, because I actually just taught someone this over the weekend. So it really does help with just easing into the tune and kind of getting yourself into that groove, which is a lot of what emphasis is all about. So I'll show you that bow pattern. I do a 3-3-2, which is a popular bow pattern in Irish fiddle music. And sometimes that first three is three separate, and other times it's three slurred. I've done a couple videos on this. I know Kevin Burke's done a video on it, and I'm sure countless other people have too. So you can do this by doing three slurred on a down bow, and then three slurred on an up bow, and then two separate. So this is your bowing for the first measure. And it's really good. It just is very even. You're playing an even amount of bow for those three slurred down, three slurred up, and then your two separate. You're staying very much in that one, that range there. And you want to do that in order to be able to play the tunes faster, because you don't want to be using all this bow here. You want to keep your parameters very limited. This is something that I teach a lot in my courses and in my private studio as well. So just keeping it very nice and narrow. So there's an idea for how to start the tune, which is often just very helpful initially. So we're going to move on from there. Again, there's that nice F sharp that you can do a little slide up to. And if you go back and listen to when I first played the tune, you'll hear that the second time I actually didn't draw as much attention to that. And you don't always have to draw attention to a string change. You can be very subtle. Like I didn't really do anything different there. I'm just kind of very relaxed, just kind of hanging out. And then you could do a bit more stress. So again, this is all about playing around with how many different ways you can play the tune, and you'd be amazed of how many subtle shifts there are out there. So that's just one where you can be very relaxed, very casual, not doing much. And then this is when you want to draw a little bit of attention. You know, maybe you could do like a little like fun shoulder thing. Like you can kind of dance along with it with your body too. So that's always a fun thing. I've got a couple questions here. Hi, Neil. Nice to see you. How do you do a cran on an open note where it would be too complex to drop down a string? Oh, yes. So by cran, are you talking about a full note roll? So something like that. If so, I like to do third finger, first finger, open D. We're on D now, but you can do this for any string. So it's just a very quick flick. That's a pipe tune. So if you know that tune, then you'll recognize where that goes. So hope that was helpful, Neil. Let me know if you want me to go back. Cran is up and then down. So I know I've heard the term cran and I've used it before. Oh, is it like the something like that? It's like a double note string. I I have a resource that I can go look that up, and I think I have your email, so I can email that resource to you so that you'll get the recommendation. I don't know if I can do it exactly on the live right now, but that is kind of essentially a crayon is kind of more of a pipe ornament. So I will get that tutorial for you. All right, so back to Devney's goat. So we're about halfway through the A part. I like to slur in into the string crossing. So a little bit slower. And that kind of just helps me give a little bit more emphasis to those notes on the alternating. So anytime that I'm doing a down bow. I actually really like to give a lot of emphasis to that one F sharp on an up bow. It's kind of like a very quick. So that's a fun note that I kind of like to bring out more often than not. It's one that I definitely have my tendencies of which ones I'll try and stress a bit more. So moving on to B. Nope, that's our old tune. I gotta remember I'm on Devaney's, not the Green Mountain. So all right, here we go. Nope. This is the bad thing about doing tunes that are very similar to one another. There we go. This is also how you know this is a live video recording here. All right, so we're doing a little bit of stop motion bowing there. I'll do a little bit of a pull on that. I like to add a little bit of emphasis to this by doing separate bows. So if you've got the finger dexterity to do really, really quick. If not, then you can do the slur. Either one works, but the separate one's kind of just fun as a little fancy, a fancy ornament there. Again, we've got our D and E with the drones. All right, so I had, so that was the emphasis portion. We're going to transition over into the ornamentation, even though I'm kind of doing both of them at the same time. But I did have a request for Julia Delaney and also Lark in the Morning. So Julia Delaney is in D minor, so we can still work with our open strings. And I would actually recommend doing a lot of drones in this one. I do a lot of drones, a bit of double stops where I'm just hanging on to the lower note when we're doing rocking notes. That's not part of the tune, but just kind of to show you what I'm doing. I'm holding on to that D and I'm playing that upper line and I'm just holding the two strings. So I'm not doing, I'm holding both. I do a lot of that in Julia Delaney. So I'll go ahead and play it through for you. And I don't do a lot of rolls in this one. I'll go ahead and say that. I'll preface that there. So here we go. So already I'm starting with that drone. So there you go. I do a lot of drones. I don't think I'm moving my bow at all this way. I'm just keeping it pretty much on D and A the whole time. As far as ornaments go, I do a little bit of like lead-in notes. I'll do a little triplet there. Maybe another little triplet there. Definitely try and use a cut on that third finger. I think I pretty much exclusively cut that D, and maybe I should try and vary it up a little bit on myself, but that's just a natural inclination to just keep that all on one bow and just cut the note to kind of give it a bit of distinction. So that's one way you could do it. Another way that I like to do is to put in bowed triplets. So maybe I'll only do one of those, but if I'm feeling really ambitious and I'm going fast, I'll do. So it's a fun little thing to do. You can play around with adding those bowed triplets in. I would put them anytime you have a quarter note or a note that has a little bit more space in the tune. If you try and do a bowed triplet on an eighth note, it just goes really fast. It's really hard to get that out. So I probably wouldn't put one there, but you get the point. That's another quarter note where you can put it. So moving on to the B part. Now I pretty much do that little that double stop trick there. So it gets a little crunchy in there with some dissonant notes. This is a technique that I noticed Liz Carroll do a lot, is holding on to that lower note and just making it into a double stop whenever you cross the string. Nice open string there. And this is one where, yes, we're in D minor, but the E, the open E works really, really nice for that particular part of the tune. This is a little variation. You could do a little passing note instead of playing. And that's pretty much the same thing where I do that little cut there at the end. And there is a different, there's a different end to the B part, but I think I don't do a whole lot of variation there. So that's Julie Delaney's. Thanks, Pumphrey. Glad you like the whole chopping bow stroke. Yeah, it's a lot of fun, just varying up all the different bow strokes there. All right, so let's go on to our last tune. Again, I want to be mindful of your time, so you can come back and watch this video and pick up anything, because I know I'm going through these really fast. So if you want to come back and re-listen and all that. For a fast phrase, okay, this is from Neil. Please, for a fast phrase, I can only play slurred, but it's written as single notes. How do you play a fast phrase of notes when it feels too fast to play up bow and down bow and so much easier to play on a single bow? Neil, I would try and balance out your bow as much as possible. So even if it is, this is something that I was talking about with Devney's goat. So if you have a passage of notes that seems easier on a slur, or with the I would just try and even out your bow strokes. So make sure that as many notes as you're playing down, you make up for that with your up bow. So you keep your window really narrow. You'll find that as you're going faster, as you're going a little bit faster, use less bow with the separate bows, and that will help a lot. Slurring is definitely easier to play fast because you can you can use a little bit more bow. You're just the left hand moves a lot faster this way than our wrists move this way. I'd also work on a bit of fluidity in your wrist for your bow hand and make sure that that's something that you're able to, apply those quick changes to. And that just comes with different exercises, practicing muscle memory, all that fun stuff, which I'm sure you've heard before. So I'll just throw that out there. That's my best tip for being able to play a little bit faster with separate bows. And work your way up to it too. Like, don't, if you're not comfortable with playing a reel at say 120 BPM, then maybe try 90 and then work your way up by BPM increments, like maybe by one or two, maybe five, something like that. So it's just kind of it's like exercise. It's something to ease yourself into and increase your reps over time. So that would be my advice there. So our last tune today that I'm going to give ornamentation advice for is actually very timely because I just taught the ornamentation for this in a lesson a couple days ago. So this is Lark in the Morning. It's a 4-parter, and I'm going to really focus on the third part because that's where we have the most space for creating variation and ornamentation. So I'll play through it once just so you can get a handle of the tune. A lot of you probably know this one already. So this is a great tune to play around with ornamentation, honestly, in a session. If you're playing a local session and you've got people that you can play music with, or if you're just listening to a recording, you can play along with people for this tune and just really play around with the ornamentation. There's so many different options, and you're hitting a very similar phrase, especially at the end. You're hitting that, I think, in the B, C, and D parts all. So play around with it and do some different stuff. You could roll that, or you could do a little stop bow motion. You could do, if you want, you could do a little bit of that bow. I would add a little bit of a slur, or not a slur, a slide, the other SL word. So I'm definitely using a lot of ornamentation in this tune. So I'll break it down as much as I can. Again, I don't want to get too far into the details because I could probably spend, like an hour working on the ornamentation for this tune. So this is probably the first ornament I put in, maybe a little bit of a double step. So we'll put our roll there because we've got a nice dotted quarter note. And I don't tend to play my rolls evenly. I kind of hang towards the back end of the beat, especially on jigs. Maybe do a little cut on that. So that's a cut on an open A, and I'm cutting with my third finger. I like to do a little kind of grace note cut into the note. I wouldn't call it a cut because usually I would call that a cut. But this is kind of going into the note. So we could call it a grace note or a lead in. It's another term I use for it. We could do another little cut there. Little slide. I'm doing a little cut there. into the B part. Another little place for a slide. Cut there. This is one of your variations you can do for this ending phrase here. You could do a double roll. So you're doing a roll on your G and then an F sharp. I like to use third finger when I'm rolling a 1. It's kind of really mirrors what you're doing with the 2. So you're just still using the third. So it's just tapping your third finger. It's an easy one to get under your muscles. All right, so now the fun part, the third part here, we have a lot of F sharps. And if you play it the exact same time, the exact same way every time, it's going to get boring. Just going to put it out there. It's going to get boring to you and to the listener. So you want to really vary this one up. You want to get more rolls, cuts, lead-ins, bow triplets, slide-ins, double stops, pretty much any ornament. Probably not a crayon though. You can do a lot of different ornaments here. So I just did 3 different ornaments. So that's one. That's a cut. This is a lead-in. And then I'll do a roll. So 3 different ornaments is very, very subtle difference. So that's one alteration. That's one variation you could do. This is fun. This is kind of maybe more a me stylistically thing. I don't think it's actually an Irish ornament, but I'm kind of just sliding down and back up. Kind of like a dying cat sound. So lots of different things you can do there, play around with it. I'll play through it one more time at the end here so that you can kind of go back and listen and maybe try and piece together some of the ornaments that I'm throwing in. I'll try to vary it up for you. You can also go back and listen to the first time I played it because I was definitely very intentional about getting some different ornaments in there. But then, yeah, at the end, if you've been doing rolls on that F sharp, it could be a little excessive to do. You can do it, and you could do it like maybe one time through and then on the repeat do something different. I actually might throw it at the end of the second time through the C part going into D. So I meant to do more of a roll at the end. So that's something you could do as a variation. Otherwise, if you've been playing that roll at the last F sharp, then maybe do so that kind of little like skip stop motion. And then there's several different ways to play this D part. That's kind of the more standard one. I like to just kind of hang on that F sharp a little bit. I've heard a couple of other people play it this way. It just adds a little fun rhythmic difference to the jig. And oftentimes I'll actually make that into a double stop. You could also do with the open A and the F sharp. I would be more likely to do a roll at the end of the D part because there's not a whole lot of places to put a roll in D except for at the very end. So I'd be more likely to put one in there instead of maybe doing the stop motion. So I'll do Lark in the Morning one more time through. I'll do it a little bit slower just for anyone who's trying to figure out all the different ornaments I'm doing. So I will go through maybe about a moderate pace here. And if you have any questions, go ahead and fire them up in the comments. And otherwise, I will sign off after this. But I really appreciate you all tuning in. And again, you can watch the replay for this if you want to go back and watch all the other tune mini tutorials that I did. I just end on a nice little double open string drone there. All right. So Pumphrey asks, what is the crunchy rhythmic ornament Tommy Pupils was such a master of? That I'm not entirely sure on. You might Breed Harper is like an expert on Tommy Peoples. She's a great Irish fiddler up in Donegal. Although she's I think in Derry now. But all up in a similar region. So she is pretty much an expert on him and would probably know a lot better than I do. I would guess that it's probably maybe a double note. There was a technique that I just learned in a workshop recently that I think he stopped the bow, like, he actually put his finger on the hair down here, and he used that to create a different sound. So that actually might be the technique you're talking about. And I don't play it. I don't play that technique, but I'm happy to, have the little I keep my thumb here, but I'm happy to show you that it's yeah, this little stopping the bow hair, which somehow affects the sound. I don't quite know how he did it. There's a reason why he's like a total master at the fiddle. So that's my guess that that's what it is. But definitely, if you follow Breed Harper on her Facebook page, I don't know if she's on. I think she's on YouTube, maybe, but I know she's more active on Facebook. So if you follow her there, she'd be a great person to ask about that. So thank you all so much for tuning in. Thanks, Steve. Nice to see you on here. And Fiddlington, a bowed triplet. That is technically it's like 2/16 notes and an eighth note. And I think I have a separate video of this on YouTube that I can point you towards too if you want to see it. But it's technically not a even triplet, but it's 3 notes and it's kind of played in that quick succession there. So anytime that you hear me play, like in Julia Delaney's, like I was mentioning, that's a bowed triplet right there. And you can also do like a little duplet, couplet, however you want to call it, where it's just adding in a quick extra note. And that's another technique that's a little bit different from a bowed triplet. And usually that's when you have even less time to work with an ornament, but you want to be really fancy with the tune. So that's, I think I went over that in my order of ornamentation video. So that's how to add or what order to add ornaments into your tune, I think is the title. Definitely check that one out if you want some ideas on the different triplets. So yes, that can definitely be one of the crunchy ornaments. That's one that I wouldn't say is exclusive to Tommy Peoples, but also might be, I think it might be his stop thumb technique there. So I only just found that out less than a month ago. So I'm glad that you asked me now and not like 2 months ago because I would not have known. But anyway, thank you all so much for being here today. I really appreciate it. I will do more of these lives throughout. You can always let me know if there's tunes that you would like bowing or emphasis or ornamentation tips for. I'm happy to do these every once in a while. Don't have a specific plan for it, but in the meantime, you can check out the free Fiddle Tip Vault, which is basically my kind of starter resource for you. If you're just getting to know me, you want to know my teaching style a bit better, you're welcome to join me there and see a whole bunch of tutorials I've got on Irish fiddle. Also offer private lessons, so that is also an option if that's something you're looking for. And I will hop off now, but thank you again so much for being here. I'm really glad you enjoyed it. And Neil, I'm going to get you that tutorial on crayons because it's bugging me that I can't remember exactly how they go. So I hope you have a wonderful day, and I will talk to you all soon.